I was sitting in a chair 1,000 miles from my home. On the small table in front of me was a glass of red wine. My laptop was resting on my lap. I wasn't doing anything special, just killing time trying to figure out what had happened and why my wife, with whom I had been with for 15 years, was 1,000 miles away from me. A little backstory: my wife works as a personal assistant to a doctor of divinity at a university. She has worked there for about 6 years now and enjoys her job. I work in a warehouse that sells car parts all over the world. We are both in our 40s, and up until a few months ago, I thought we were happy, that life went on, that we did our jobs, that we cuddled in front of the TV, that I watched soccer most weekends, that my wife seemed interested in sports too. But in retrospect, no, she wasn't. Until recently, we did everything as a couple, occasionally going on dates and making love passionately. Not always as often as we wanted, but when we did, it was satisfying for both of us. My wife is a beautiful woman, and even when she turned 40, nothing has changed. We both work out at the gym and run in the parks and lakes near us. We are both physically fit. I am broad-shouldered and trim. The only problem in my life is my family and, more importantly, my brother. I left home at the age of 16 and have not returned of my own volition since. My older brother Darren is 2 years older than me. He is an accountant by profession, but not a very good one. My family always thought he was better than me, but a few clients complained about him. He never got himself a girlfriend for long, maybe because he's fat, lazy, and can be an asshole, which scares women away. But he has his own way of attracting women. He always said Carrie was too good for me and never hid his admiration for her, and a couple times he let his admiration go too far and started touching her too freely with his hands. The first time I wasn't around, but Carrie came and found me, and I talked to him, and he said he was drunk and just being friendly. The second time I saw it, I punched him in the face twice. He lost some teeth and broke his nose. That was 2 years ago. He has stayed away from my wife ever since. Even though things weren't going well between my wife and I thought it wasn't so bad that my wife would cheat on me with this slob. Over the past year, things between us have gotten a bit messy. I remember one argument ended with us sleeping together like teenagers on the kitchen table, with plates and mugs lying everywhere. Then we argued about something else. I forget what exactly. Anyway, we ended up having fun in the garden in the rain. What I'm trying to say is that the past year has been a roller coaster ride with far more ups than downs. I love my wife, and I thought she loved me too. But when I couldn't go to a family BBQ, Carrie made an exception and wanted me to go with her, but I really couldn't. My warehouse needed me. Yes, I know family and my wife had to come first. The next day, I got a text from Carrie saying that she needed to get away from me and my family and that she would explain everything when she settled into her parents' house. She went to stay with her relatives in Manchester. We lived in Dartmouth, a coastal town in the south of England. I tried calling my in-laws, but they didn't know what had happened to her or where she had gone, and they were also furious that I hadn't organized a family barbecue. Darren mentioned being with Carrie and helping her into a spare room to sleep in when she was drunk. He said she was pissed and drank too fast. But when he woke up, she was gone, and he made some snide comment about her tattoo, which pissed me off since he knew he would. But I want to hear what the wife has to say before I cave on my brother. I don't know how to fix this. I think it's up to my wife. If she's completely honest with me, then we have a chance. I was just finishing solitaire when the letter arrived. Carrie. Gary. My love, my only love. First of all, I'm sorry. I know it's easy to say this now. I don't know exactly when things went wrong between us. Maybe we were apart for too long, or I was spending too much time at work. I know you tried to tell me to be careful. You warned me not to spend all my time thinking about work or other people. I should have listened to you. I know that now. I hope it's not too late for us. I really do love you. I know it's hard to believe right now. I know I shouldn't have left you at home that day, but like so many other things, I was wrong. Honestly, I think we both have too good a life. You have your job and I have mine. We have the company of friends. We went out on different nights, but not with each other. At least, not as often as I would have liked. Yes, I realize that we lived apart. We slept together, we made love together, sometimes we had dinner together. But did we cuddle on the couch watching Netflix? Did we spend time in bed just cuddling? No, you went jogging and then to the gym, and I did the same. On weekends, we'd go grocery shopping, each doing our own chores. Then you watch your soccer game, and I sit and half watch and half read e-story. Then we go to bed, I go to bed, and you watch your soccer or sports program or watch Netflix until some horrible time of night. Don't get me wrong, Gary, it's as much my fault as it is yours, but the final straw for you is that I made the mistake of staying at your parents' house for an extended period of time, and I made the mistake of trusting your brother. Gary, you know how I feel about my looks. You make me feel secure and beautiful. You always compliment me on my figure. Yes, you know I get picked on by people. Sorry, but when you are 5 feet 9 inches tall, slim body, medium-sized breasts, long legs, and long black hair, then people will hit on me. But you know I've turned them down. I've never given you a reason to doubt me or suspect me of cheating on you, and honestly, I've never even considered it. You are everything to me, and I am willing to die for you. So having said all that, I'm ashamed that I don't know what happened that night. Honestly, I'm not sure what happened, but I know that when I woke up in my bra and panties in someone else's bed, I had to wonder and look at myself from the outside. The strange bed was, of course, your brother's bed. I don't even like your brother. He's an arrogant asshole. He's a slob. What the hell was I supposed to do naked in your brother's bed? The worst part is I don't remember how I got there or why. I remember being mad at you because you couldn't or wouldn't come to the party. It was your parents' anniversary, for crying out loud. Your family kept asking where you were, and finally I told them you were working. I hope you were busy at work and not partying with your date Luisa. Yes, the Mexican hottie. Your asshole brother is always telling me how she dresses in short skirts, tight tops, and often high-heeled boots or stiletto shoes. He constantly reminds me how good her figure is, how sexy she is, how fun and attentive she is. I know I shouldn't listen to him, but I do. I listened, and now I've ruined it. I'm so sorry, love. My husband, the man I love, I want to be with you. I want to grow old with you. Please, love, tell me how to make it right. And of course your slob brother is stalking me for sex. He calls me all the time making veiled threats with videos of me and him having sex. Honestly, Gary, I don't remember. All that night was wasted until the next morning. I don't think we had sex, but I honestly don't remember. I was half asleep when I ran for the shower, so I don't remember. I just wanted to be clean and get away from your brother. Gary, please let me come home. Let me explain what I know about that night. I'm sure you've already told my family and Darren. I love you, Gary, always and forever. I hope to see you again soon. Your loving wife, Carrie. Gary, I was stunned. Was I wrong? My brother tells me he slept with my wife and that she enjoyed it. Is this true? And is it true that they spent most of the weekend together? My brother described every part of my wife's body, even the butterfly tattoo. She got it when she was 18. Theoretically, you can only see it if the bottom of her bikini goes down a little, but you had to get close enough to see it. I can also see him using Louise against me. Louise is a beautiful, kind, loving woman and a good helper. We have a friendly relationship, but that's it. I would never knowingly cheat on my wife until we are divorced. So you see the problem. My brother may have taken advantage of my wife. He probably saw us drifting apart and took the opportunity to get into my wife's panties. The problem, of course, is who would believe my wife or my brother, who, besides being a jerk and an asshole, also can't lie. I looked at the clock. Midnight. I turned off my laptop, sipped my drink, and closed my eyes, hoping I could choose between the woman I love and my family. Of course, it probably wouldn't matter to my family, no doubt about it. If I chose my wife, my family would side with my brother. I have always been the black sheep of the family and still am. I will contact my wife in the morning as well as my brother. I woke up still sitting in the chair. My throat was dry from the amount of alcohol I had consumed. I stood up and stretched. I heard something crunch. I hoped it wasn't something important. I looked over and saw my phone flashing at me. I looked and saw it was my wife wishing me a good morning, saying she was sorry again and that she was on her way home to talk about our marriage. I went to the bathroom, took a shower, shaved, and took 2 paracetamol to help my head, made myself a coffee, and closed my eyes. Time to sort this shit out. I picked up my phone and dialed my brother's number. After 2 rings, he picked up. Darren, did you sleep with my wife? Think carefully before you answer. I said in a calm but cold voice. Yes, yes, of course. And she loved it. She kept telling me how much better I was than you, and that she would never be satisfied with you again. The last sentence he almost shouted out. Darren, listen to me carefully. Do you have proof that you fucked my wife? The same cold voice again. Yes, I do. She wanted to get it on camera so I could show it to you later. Gary, she's a piece of work. I should have fucked her earlier. He was starting to get aroused. Okay, Darren, there are two things. I don't believe you, and I'm going to give you a head start. It's going to take me 30 minutes to get to our parents' house. If you're there, I'll beat the shit out of you. If you're not there, I'll find you and beat the shit out of you. Your choice. I heard a sharp sigh. Come on, Gary. She's just a bitch. You didn't satisfy her, and I did. You can still have her. I don't mind sharing. I'm already in the car and will be at the house in 25 minutes. I hope you stay put and make my life easier. I was in the car and driving down the freeway at a good speed. I turned off my cell phone and dialed my wife's number. She immediately answered on speakerphone. Gary, my love, I'm halfway home now. We need to sort this out. I shouldn't have run away. I'm so sorry, love. Sobs could be heard in her voice. Carrie, I want you to try and focus on that night, which was the last thing you remember, I said, still keeping my voice cold. I remember getting home, greeting your parents and other members of your family, giving your parents a present, and then helping your mom cook. She paused, clearly reflecting on that day. We had dinner, I had a couple beers, then I remember sitting on the couch, and that was it until the next morning. I could hear her sobbing as she drove the car. So that's it? Nothing else? No other memories of that night? Gary, honestly, if I could remember anything, I'd tell you, I promise. I could tell she was being honest, at least as much as was possible over the phone. Carrie, I'm going to my parents' house. Why don't you join me? Are you sure about that? What are you going to do? I'm going to deal with this shit once and for all. Anyway, I'm almost there. Join me as soon as you can. Okay, Gary, I'm on my way. Gary, take care of yourself. Stay safe. I love you, and I don't want anything to happen to you. We both disconnected to part ways in our cars and meet at my parents' house. I got there in record time and was happy to see that Darren's car was still there. I parked in front of the house across from Darren's car. I got in the car, setting myself up, and waited for my wife to show up. 20 minutes later, her car pulled up behind mine. She got out of her Mazda MX-5 and waited for me to get out of my Ford Escort. She was dressed casually, in a sweater, jeans, and boots, but even so, she looked beautiful. She started to walk towards me with open arms, but I stopped her. Carrie, until I figure things out, let's not hug, kiss, or touch each other. If I get the answers I need, then we can kiss and hug and do all the things couples do. Carrie pulled back and looked upset, but agreed with my idea. Okay, Gary, just remember, no matter what happens, I love you and always will. She said it with conviction, and I believed she loved me. Carrie, I love you too, but if I get the answers wrong, we're done. She nodded, but there were tears in her eyes. I turned and walked down the path, and she followed me. When I got to the door, my mother, Rose, opened it. Gary, don't do anything stupid. You don't want to hurt your brother, she said, clearly trying to protect my brother. Mom, you have a choice. Stand there and protect my asshole brother or step aside and let me talk to him. I promise I won't hurt him in any way, I said in a calm voice. For a moment, I thought she was going to stop me, but she stepped aside and I felt my wife following me. Darren was sitting in a chair watching TV. He didn't take my threat seriously. I walked over to him, grabbed his arm, and pulled him down to the floor. I then flipped him over onto his back so he was on his front. Now, Darren, let's play a game of question and answer. I ask the questions. You give me the answers. Do you understand? He squeaked a yes as I tugged on his arm. Good. Now I asked you a question about you sleeping with my wife. Is the answer still yes? I continued to press on his arm, feeling his body begin to shudder in pain. Yes, and she liked it. Before he could finish the sentence, I stood up and pulled his arm, which I in no way expected. Carrie rushed over to Darren and kicked him in the stomach as hard as she could and did it 3 times. I'm pretty sure I heard something break. Same question, Darren. Did you sleep with my wife?" With tears in his eyes, he shouted, "No, I didn't. I didn't sleep with her. I wanted to, and I should have, but no. I didn't try your wife. I just wanted you to separate, and then maybe I'd have a chance at her." I let him go, and as soon as I did, Carrie kicked him again in the stomach and then in the balls. "Carrie, that's enough. Save your energy for later." She stopped and looked at me with tears of relief and anger. "Gary, that piece of shit almost drove us apart. He deserves everything he gets." "Yeah, he deserves it. But I'm done with this family." I looked at my former brother, then at my former mother and David's former father. They were looking at Darren with shocked faces. He was just lying there with his arm twisted at a funny angle and holding his stomach with the other hand my wife had hit him with. The first to come to his senses was my father. "Gary, get out of this house and never come back, and take that whore with you." I took 2 steps toward him and started raising my fist. I was beyond furious. All these years he had endured humiliation and disrespect in favor of Darren. My father saw that my eyes were red and angry. My mother noticed it too, as did my wife. They grabbed my arm and pulled me away. "Okay, before we go, one last question, Darren. Did you put that in my wife's drink?" He carefully sat down on the couch, threw a brief glance at our father, then looked at me. "No, I didn't. It never occurred to me. I just thought she was drunk and passed out when I carried her upstairs." Carrie and I looked at each other. Carrie spoke first. "So, if you didn't drug me, who did?" Darren looked at my father, then quickly averted his gaze, then looked at the floor. Something clicked in my head. No one could stop me. So I punched my father in the chin with my fist, knocking him to the ground. He tried to get up again, but surprisingly, my mother got to him first and slapped him so hard that he fell and just lay there, stunned. "You son of a bitch, you fucked up for the last time. You talked me into treating Darren better than Gary. I foolishly agreed all these years, no more. And now I find out you drugged our daughter-in-law just so our worthless son could screw up Gary's marriage." She slapped my father again and screamed, "I've suffered enough in this marriage. I may be too old to find a man again, but I'd rather be alone." She then walked over to Darren and punched him in the face. She then turned to me and knelt down. "Gary, please forgive me for treating you badly. I was so stupid I let my husband dictate the terms of the marriage to me, and he convinced me that you were not the son I wanted and not a son to be proud of." She looked at me with tears in her eyes, and to be fair to my mother, she never personally humiliated me, at least not to my face. She also didn't deny me affection. She just gave Darren more affection. Did she treat me badly? Not as much as my father. Hell, I'm a grown man. I am who I am, regardless of which parent liked me and which one didn't. "Mom, stand up and give your son a hug." I bend down and help her up. She must be approaching 65, but she's still a striking woman and seems stronger than I thought she would be. She jumped up and hugged me, then let go and walked over to Carrie. "Carrie, I'm so sorry we put you through so much shit. I can only imagine the stress we caused you. I really hope you and Gary can make up. He may not show it, but he loves you very much and would be lost without you. And for the record, he is the best son to me, and I think a good husband." She then turned to my father and Darren. "That's it. I've had enough of you two assholes. Darren, you can live anywhere but here. Pack your things and get out of this house. As for you, David, this house was given to me by my parents. It's in my name. And I own this house. So tomorrow, with Gary's help, I'm going to go to a lawyer and start divorce proceedings. Our marriage is over, and your worthless son will help you pack your bags." David pulled himself together and was about to say something when me, my wife, and my mother stepped toward him. After thinking for a moment, he turned and went upstairs. Darren soon followed. My mother rushed over to my wife and I, and we hugged her. I looked at my wife, and she looked at me, and something happened between us. All fights, quarrels, and arguments were over. It was time for us to be a couple again. After that marital encounter, events unfolded rapidly. My mother moved out of her house and moved into a home for the elderly. It wasn't far from where my wife and I lived. From the looks of it, she was having a great time. David and Darren rent a cheap apartment up north. I don't know where exactly they live, nor do I care. They are both dead to me. My mother sold her house and split everything between the three of us, me, my wife, and herself. Since the house sold for a decent price, Carrie and I were able to cut back on our work hours. We stopped going out separately, and if we did, it was just the two of us. Even when her friends invited her to a bachelorette party, Carrie made it clear that I was going too. Other husbands soon did the same, and so we began to spend evenings together, and during those evenings the marriage got better. Carrie and I worked out together at the gym, ran together at the park and beach. I cut back on watching sports and spending time with my wife. We did things that we both enjoyed, but also did things that each of us enjoyed. We went to watch soccer together, then to a play or movie we both liked, but most importantly, we talked to each other. We still fought sometimes and still had passionate sex in the house and sometimes outside the house. We went on vacations to hot places and Carrie was molested. Hell, I'd be surprised if she didn't. She liked to wear sexy clothes and I didn't stop her, but her clothes were never slutty and didn't show too much. Sure, her bikini showed off her body, but back then all the women on the beach looked good in their bikinis. But every time someone approached her, she said she wasn't interested in talking to them, and when a few men got too pushy, we both made sure they realized it. Carrie took up kickboxing, and unfortunately, she had to put her training to use when we went to a nightclub in Greece. Even though I was there, several young men tried their luck. We continued to be a couple as much as possible. Some of our friends joked that we were too close, but to be honest, I told Carrie that if she wanted to be alone, she could. But she refused, saying she was having the best time of her life, and I agreed with her. Our marriage was restored, our lives are better. I have a beautiful, sexy wife who loves me and is happy to be with me. We still have fun having sex on the street. We even got caught once. And yes, Carrie likes to flaunt herself, but only to me and usually among our oldest and most trusted friends. Yes, we live well. My ex-father and ex-brother don't live well, and apparently struggle to pay rent and lead a decent life. After the divorce, most of my mother's friends chose to side with her, and now Darren and David are lonely, bitter people. And my mom? Well, she has fun dating some of the men she lives with. Life goes on, and that's good for me and my wife. Yes, I trust her. Yes, I believe she has been faithful to me. Not knowing Carrie and my mother, I ended up having a serious conversation with Darren and David, my former father. I asked them one simple question. Had either of them touched my wife or had sex with her? They both said no. Except when Darren undressed Carrie, they had planned to do it too, both of them. But for some reason didn't do it that night. And I couldn't resist both men going to the dentist and getting false teeth put in after the swelling in their faces went down. And Darren would never molest women again. His balls got damaged during our conversation.